This video is going to be a series of images that I'm doing some voiceover. The process that I'm going to be describing here took me well over 6 hours, if I remember right, close to 7 hours. And it's possible it took me a little bit more than that. I think the first 6 hours was just in some of the initial design that I was doing and playing around with, and then I came back later and did some more, and later and did some more, and there's no way I was going to film that entire process and make it into a video. So I'm just going to be explaining what I was doing, what I was thinking with each of these, with the design of what I'm calling my Imperial mug. And so the image that we're looking at right now is the inspiration for this particular job. I was with some buddies in Spokane, Washington on trivia night. We had actually just won, and so we were talking to the owner and one of his buddies. And I noticed on the wall, as the owner was pointing out steins, I believe they were his grandfather's. And there was this particular mug that I asked to see up close. It looked like to me that it was probably cast, and then I saw a parting line inside, so I knew that this mug had indeed been cast whenever it was fabricated. I have no idea how old it is or anything like that. And so that inspired me. It made me think, oh, I should be able to cast my own. Now, initially, I was hoping to cast something that was going to look a whole bunch like this. However, when I sat down at Tinkercad to try to come up with a design, something that I could mimic this, it was apparent to me that if Tinkercad is able to design this particular object, there was no way that I was going to be able to do it, at least not with the knowledge that I had. So after that, I thought, well, maybe I should look around and see if I can find an existing mug, an existing image that I could work with. So I went on the interwebs and found this image. And I thought, you know what? This is something that I think I can work with. The only problem was it had a lid on it. I didn't want that. And then not only that, but when I imported this into Tinkercad, it was really, really tiny. So I had to kind of decide what kind of dimensions I wanted for this particular project. Now, when I was discussing the project I had in mind, when I saw that mug, my trivia buddies were saying, oh, whatever you come up with, it has to be a whole lot bigger. I think the quote from my teaching buddy from New Vision High School from back in the day was, it's got to hold more than a can of beer. I'm not a beer drinker, but I knew what he meant. It needed to be certainly more than 12 ounces. So I started to change the dimensions on this particular object, and trying to make it what I thought would be a substantial mug. And then the hope was, after it was all said and done, that it would hold at least 24 ounces. So I grabbed a ruler and started playing around with a size that I thought would be appropriate. And that's where I came up with the dimensions that I came up with. There were a number of things that I needed to do to modify that first image with the image that you're looking at now, which is the full mug. First of all, I changed the dimensions. So across the bottom is just over 6 inches, and top to bottom is also just over 6 inches. So when it's all said and done, I'm grabbing a ruler here because I mentioned that I cast these, or these videos are going to be out of sequence. And so I'm recapping my design here, but I've already made an attempt. And I'm not going to spoil how it turned out. But the bottom dimension is going to be just under 4.5 inches, if I remember correctly, or about 4.5 inches. And then, of course, the handle sticks out, and so that's why the dimension crossed is going to be just over 6 inches. And then top to bottom is the bottom of the mug to the top of the handle, but the dimension of the opening to this mug is going to be just over 3.5 inches or so. So I needed to resize that, and then if you were to look at the that original image that I started with, or the object STL that I started with, it had a lid. I had to remove that. So with Tinkercad, I obliterated that top so that you've got what we see here. And then I needed to put an Imperial logo on it. Since this was going to be an Imperial mug, I needed an Imperial logo. This is where the bulk of the time in trying to make this 3D print design, this is where it it was the most time consuming. That Imperial logo image that you see embossed on the mug there is actually the same Imperial logo that I used for my Imperial ingots. Since it worked on the Imperial ingot, I thought, oh, it's got to work on this. One of the things I hadn't considered, though, that made this really, really challenging was the curvature of the mug. In the Imperial ingot, it's flat, so I didn't have to do anything. I played around, and I played around, and I played around with that Imperial logo to where I could finally get this. Some of the difficulties I had initially is because of the curvature. I had to make that logo deeper, but if I made that logo deeper, then that put a hole in the back, or not in the back, but in the side of the mug. And so then it occurred to me that I needed to curve the logo in the same way that the mug was curved. That took a tremendous amount of time in trial and error. And again, why it took as long as it did to come up with this particular design. A couple things that you'll notice. There is that line that goes across the top of the handle there. Part of that is in order to slice off that lid that was on this object. I had to kind of do that in two parts, where I had to copy that portion and then remove the portion of the lid that sat over the top of the actual opening to the mug, and then I had to replace that piece of the handle, and that's why there's a line there. In the actual 3D print, that line does not show up. And then, as you can see, there's the parting line between the two halves, and I'll get to each of the halves here in a bit. But I had forgotten to take a screenshot when it was an entire whole, so that's why you see that parting line. I took the two halves and put them together. Anyway, by far the most difficult part of this design was getting that Imperial logo so that it actually did a cutout and curved to match the curve of the mug. Here's the left half, I believe. Yeah, that's what I've got listed here. the left half. And right half and left half is just relative to the mug and the way it was displayed on my screen at the time. And there's really not anything special about the left half here or the right half on the other side, other than I needed to cut this thing in half, and then I needed to show some, make up some way to make registration marks, which I only think I was partway successful with my 3D print, despite the fact that I did everything in Tinkercad and everything looks like it should have been precise and everything should have fit exactly the way it was supposed to. In reality, when my 3D printer did the printing, it did not print as precise as Tinkercad made it, which shouldn't be a surprise. Anyway, there's really nothing special here on this. I think the process that I made a copy and then split it in half. I think that's how I did it. I actually had to go on the YouTubes and watch this process a couple of times. It involved doing some copying and pasting and all that other sort of stuff. And then I just took the half and laid it down on its side. And the way you see it here, this is the way that it printed. And it printed quite nicely. It didn't need any supports or anything like that. Here's an image of the right half, and then you can see across the top in red are the spheres that I was using. Instead of pegs, I was using spheres. I thought they would fall into place a little bit better. I tried using pegs on a different project, and I don't know if I ever posted that one or not. It was an attempt at making the curves of a plant stand thick, so that there were two sides to it, not just a flat side and then the textured top, but that I could do a top and bottom and put them together. And I was testing that. Again, I don't remember if I made a video out of that, but I tried making 3D printed pegs, and it just didn't fit well. I thought spheres would be a little bit nicer, easier, that they could fall into place. The problem is I didn't try to make a sphere. I made two hemispheres, and then I glued those together. And again, the lack of precision with the 3D printer, I think, ended up being somewhat problematic. I've gone through and I've dremeled, and I've tried to make some adjustments so that they fit together better. I think they fit well enough when I go to print, although I've had some issues. Again, this is out of order, so I know how some of this turns out, and I think I addressed that in the footage that I've already taken. Anyway, what I want to point out on this, where that Imperial logo came down, it landed on part of the texture of the mug itself, and I really liked the way that turned out, where the Imperial logo embossed awfully nice and followed the contours of the mug. All right, as I mentioned that there was a bunch of trial and error here, so let me show you the next issue and problem that I came up with. All right, what I'm going to be showing you here is two related images. This is the left half, and so I printed everything off, and everything was looking good, until I realized, after I had both halves, the top or the right and the left, in hand, and I got my registration spheres glued into place. I was about ready to cast when I was looking at everything, and I realized not though, until, like I said, everything was cast and I'd seen my mistake, or 3D printed. I hadn't cast anything yet. I 3D printed when I realized this mistake. So anyone who is a metal caster within a lot of experience will see immediately what the problem is that I didn't see until after I had printed it. I might have even been explaining to my wife how this was all going to go. Okay, so when it comes time to actually make a mold, this is the way you see the image right now. This is the way it sits on the table, and the flask is around that. And I put my parting powder down, talcum powder, and make everything, and then I start putting the sand on. So I'm explaining this to my wife, why I've got to do this. And another thing that's tricky about this is I needed to make a special flask, because this is going to need to be cast vertically, which I'll get to before I get to the end of this presentation, because this is just actually kind of the first part. Well, it turned out it was first part A and first part B, because I had to fix something here. I thought it looked really, really cool, the 3D print, when I put the two halves together with the way that bottom rim was. And I thought, oh, this is going to be so cool when this gets cast. Then as I'm explaining it to my wife, I realize I'm putting sand down on the top of this, and then I'm going to ram it, and it's going to get all compacted. But when it comes time to pull this part, this half, out of the sand, I got to flip the flask over. And the problem is that whole underside there is going to be filled with sand. So if I tried to pull this out of the sand straight, which is what I need to do, it's not going to happen, because there's going to be sand all in that hemisphere there. And I realized immediately after explaining it, there was no way this is going to work. So I needed to come up with a solution. The solution was to 3D print two more parts. And these are hemisphere inserts that fit into the bottom of the main mug, right side and left side. They fit in pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect. The real solution would have been to have printed these things as part of the original print and filling that in. But it works okay. Although I got this brilliant idea. Oh, hey, why don't I put Freeman Metalworks in this, like those ingots I had done a couple of years ago. Excuse me. And hey, then it can mold my initials into the bottom of the mug without realizing, until I actually started casting this, that it's this exact same problem that I had with pulling the part out of the sand. And that is, I need to pull it straight out. And so whatever sand fills in that cavity is just going to get sheared off when I pull things out. So it was, I had the right idea, idea-wise. It would be cool if I could cast my initials in there, but the execution of that idea, completely flawed. Anyway, so these inserts then get placed inside the two hemispheres of the right side and the left side, and then it gets cast as a unit. However, after I did this, I realized there was something else I had forgotten. What makes this project different than anything else I've ever attempted is the fact that I need to cast something that has a hollow spot. In order for that to happen, I need to fabricate a core. And in order to fabricate a core, I needed to mold up 3D print a core box, and that's what this is here. Now, this part I hadn't forgotten. I knew I needed to do this. And so then I went back to my original mug object and put the two halves together. And then after doing all of that, I needed to find a way to get the inside. And so this was almost as long and tedious in trying with the trial and error as the Imperial logo was, trying to get the volume of the inside of that mug. And so eventually I did. I was able to then get that piece, and then I did it for both. I think I had to do it for both halves, I think is how I actually did it, and then put the two halves together to make a solid object. And then I took that solid object and turned it into a hole that I then put inside this block that you see here. And so it's got two halves. And since this is going to be a core, and I forgot the chemical, is it silicon? No, sodium silicate, I believe is what it is. You mix that in with some sand, and I think I picked up a bag of medium grain silica sand. And then you ram it into this mold. You put the two halves together. I used gonna use clamps on this, and that's what I used for this, and clamped it together. And then you ram this sodium silicate infused sand, pack it, ram it just like you would anything else, and then it reacts with the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, if I remember correctly, and it then makes a solid core that you then put inside your mold, and then the molten metal flows around this core, and that's what makes the hollow part. So I got that done. Everything was fine. I thought, all right, now I can finally think about casting, when I realized I had not made anything to compensate for this core being put into the mold. And so I had to go back to Tinkercad and make something else, design something else that I could then put again into the two halves, just like I did with the bottoms. Here are the last parts that I 3D printed for this project. Like the bottom inserts, these are inserts that go into each half of the 3D print of the original mug. In my perfect world, this would have been printed as part of the two halves of the mug, because I need a shelf for the core to sit on. And the hope was that I could get away from any kind of guesswork as to whether or not I was placing the core in, if it were centered in the mold. And so by having this insert that goes into each half, and then ramming the sand over that, when I pull all of it apart, there will be, you can see where that lip is. It's a little bit bigger than the part that goes inside the cavity of the mug. And there's that lip there. And then for me, it was a bit of a shelf. And I thought, oh, okay, I can just set the core into that shelf, and then put the two halves of the rammed sand mold together, and everything would be hunky-dory, and everything would be fine. If I were to 3D print this again, and I won't know until I've done a cast whether or not this is going to work the way it is. If I have to end up reprinting my mold, that shelf will be more substantial than what is seen right there. Um, I mean, that was the only concern going in there when I designed this and printed. How much of a shelf should I make? And of course, in my mind, everything fits together exactly the way it's supposed to fit together. Not accounting for sand breaking away or things moving or shifting. But I won't go into any details there because, like I've said, I think a time or two already, I've made an attempt at casting this, and I don't want to wreck the suspense when that video, that part of the video of the series comes out, how this all turned out. But I will say that it's very, very possible, and I may need to rethink some of this and do some redesign and do a brand new 3D print. So I'm going to wrap this up and say, hey, until our to be continued, I guess. So let's wrap this up and let's hit that outro segment that you are probably so very tired of seeing. Thanks a whole bunch for watching. If you found this video entertaining, informative, or any such things like that in any way, shape, or form, please like and subscribe. Blessings.